Why would you say every company needs a Bitcoin strategy?
Oh, every company needs a Bitcoin strategy because every company needs to avoid extinction. And if you are stubborn and you refuse to have a Bitcoin strategy, have Bitcoin on your balance sheet, accept it as a payment, have a Bitcoin related plan for your employees, then you will lose. It's like, I think the way I see it is that cyberspace, like the internet, is kind of like this meteor impact that happened, and it changed everything. Like, the meteor that ended the dinosaur era, it created this giant ash plume. And if you weren't hardened, if you weren't a hard species, which didn't mean you were big and strong, it just meant like you were hard in terms of fit to survive this challenge, you were going to die. You were going to get extinct. And that's why these little mammals who were able to hide in little holes, who were ignored up to then, very small part of the world, they were able to survive, and they became the next era, dominating the next eras of archaeology and history, geological time. And so similarly, luckily, of course, we are adaptable beings, and so you can make a decision to adapt to this meteoric impact of the internet. And so the reason I say cyberspace as being the meteoric impact is that it's impacting so much of our life. AI is posing a lot of threat factors already. Everybody lives online nowadays. Well, if you don't have second factor authentication, you're going to get damaged. You're going to get attacked. Your reputation is going to get tarnished. You're going to lose money. You're going to lose your job. Your company is going to go bankrupt because the databases have leaked, etc. And so you need to start adopting these cypherpunk tools to survive. And that includes Bitcoin. Bitcoin is just part of the toolbox to survive in an era where DDoS attacks are happening all around us, and where proving your identity is getting harder and harder. So cryptography, really, that's where it's at. And the only money that's really protected by cryptography is Bitcoin. I don't know, it's a very kind of esoteric explanation as to why you need to have Bitcoin on your balance sheet or switch to the Bitcoin standard as a company. But ultimately, yeah, it's to avoid extinction.
When it comes to the future of Bitcoin over this, let's say, cycle or so, let's say the next few years, do you have any, thoughts on what kind of domino effects we may see? That, we may see this US ETF get approved, and then we may see ETFs in other countries, and we may see more and more companies who start doing a MicroStrategy, or other countries who start doing an El Salvador. I'm curious if you have any thoughts around what kind of dominoes could fall in the next cycle.
Yeah, man, all of them. It's like the wildfire has started, and let's speculate on where it's going to spread, and it kind of depends on the wind and some factors that we don't control. Also, we don't know how hollow and rotten all the trees are and how fast they're going to catch fire. So there's a lot of unknowns there. I do feel certain that it is happening, and of course, like a Malay revolution, that could just start spreading all around the world too, because I do really sincerely believe that Bitcoin is a part of all this kind of counter movement, this countercultural movement for smaller government, more responsibility, longer term thinking. I think there was an undercurrent of that, but a lot of those people are feeling emboldened now because they have written about this in the Bitcoin Reformation. If you have an exit strategy, if you have the option to actually exit, you start feeling more free and you speak more freely. And I think that's what we're seeing, is Bitcoin is kind of this I don't know, super fuel for change in the world. So yeah, it's all tied together. It's not just Bitcoin that's spreading. It's all tied together. I don't know where the next, it might be a central bank that puts it on their balance sheet. I think generally speaking, you can say that people who are already more freedom-minded are going to be earlier adopters. So maybe entrepreneurs are more likely to be part of the next wave than stodgy old government bureaucrats. So just exciting times. And like we said, it's just very early in this bull market.
One other area around the future of Bitcoin use, because obviously not everybody can transact on-chain, right? Everybody's clear about that. And it may not even be possible that everybody can have their own Lightning channel, at least today. Maybe with future technology, it may become possible. But I'm curious how you're thinking about some of these alternative ways that people are interacting with Bitcoin or looking at it. So, for example, there's Liquid, which is a federated sidechain. You can think of it kind of like a custodian, but spread across the 15 functionaries. There's eCash, and there's kind of the single eCash form and the federated eCash form. And there's just straight up custodial Lightning, as an example. I'm curious how you're looking at some of these methods of Bitcoin use, and what do you see becoming prominent?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I want to see all of them kind of grow and proliferate. And of course, we're all going to have debates on which one offers the best trade-off for security versus privacy, etc. They're all going to have different trade-offs. That's a fact. The level of security that you can achieve with a proof-of-work based blockchain that's globally adopted is unprecedented, but the bandwidth that offers is limited by definition. I think Greg Maxwell puts it really well when he says it's like a court system, and the Bitcoin blockchain is the supreme court. It's the smartest, it's the most fair of all courts, but it's also the most expensive place to settle a dispute. And so these layer twos are going to be lower level court systems that work in a different way. And so it's polycentric law at work. It's really beautiful if you look at it that way. So that's how I see this entire discussion. It's like you don't want, as much as I'm a maximalist for Bitcoin, right? For Bitcoin adoption, we only need one Bitcoin standard. I'm very much a pluralist when it comes to the layer twos. I think we need many systems, and we need competition, and we need arbitrage between them, and money to flow from one to the other. I've been vocal for years that I think the liquid sidechain was undervalued and underappreciated. People are saying like, oh, nobody's using it, and it's there's not enough hackathons, and it's too cumbersome. There was all kinds of not enough smart contracts, all kinds of things people were saying. And my feeling was that this is something that is designed to flourish when fees are really high. And there was another reason. Well, maybe also when privacy is really valued, much more valued than before. And so like an Ethereum is very bad for privacy, for example, but people didn't care, and so they would use it anyway. And then the Bitcoin blockchain for a long time had low fees, and so people were like, oh, everyone is going to go on Lightning. It's the future. We can all open Lightning channels. And then it's like, oh, really? Like 8 billion people are going to open Lightning channels on the mainnet? So I feel like finally Liquid is getting the attention it deserves. It's a very powerful platform, but it's not the panacea. It's not going to solve everything. There's also the ARC proposal I've heard of. Alex Bergalex was excited about that. And yeah, I mean, who knows? Maybe this is still very early age, the layer two. Like we've been thinking that we solved it all, but maybe there's more to it. And people are saying that, yeah, maybe Lightning will have a different role in this ecosystem than we previously thought.
Right. And I think the Lightning part is a different understanding than in the earlier days of Lightning, where maybe the common understanding was just, oh yeah, everyone can run their own node. Whereas now I think the use for Lightning is being better understood. And maybe some of us were wrong, right? Like I think I had the wrong impression, that I think it's going to be more used in a B2B context. And although, of course, I want as many people to be non-custodial as possible, I also accept that there will be a lot of custodial Lightning users. And, I can't, shaking my fists at the stars is not going to change that. That there will be a lot of people who simply cannot afford to go on-chain. And so they will use some kind of custodial solution, whether that's custodial Lightning. And Lightning may become more like this kind of interoperative layer or interconnective tissue between the different layers, whether that's people on Arc, people using eCash and Fedimint sort of things, and people using Liquid, and people on Light, and just people natively using Lightning. And there may be these kind of swap providers who help you kind of swap between the different solutions. Maybe that's what the future looks like.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I think. Yeah, that's what I think.
All right, well, I think that's probably a good spot to finish up. Any closing thoughts, Tuur, and where can people find you online?
Closing thoughts? I mean, strap on your seatbelt. Like this thing is going to light our hair on fire. This thing is going to go. I really think we're so early. Nobody's interested in Bitcoin yet. If you look at the search trends, it's like, no, the world is not paying attention yet. The world needs this. It's crazy to me how all these global macro factors are starting to come together. Like you were talking about the deficit, for example. I mean, Jeff Gundlach had a slide in his deck where they made some projections for U.S. government, how sustainable their expenditures are, and basically, if the interest rate goes to 9%, they're literally bankrupt by 2029. That means that interest rate payments would grow larger than 100% of tax income. And also, if it stays where it is right now at 6%, they also go bankrupt quite quickly. And the alternative, of course, is to lower the interest rates, which means you blow up the value of the money. So it's just, just so many crazy things that are happening at the same time. And I'm so happy that Bitcoin exists, because truly, like, a lot of us who've been looking at this for 15, 20 years, we were thinking about digging a hole with a bunch of gold and like just waiting for the zombie apocalypse, because it's just so terrible to have a financial system that all of a sudden can no longer calculate, and where the money is dead. It is terrifying. And so for Bitcoin to build this alternative, it's like we're building a system B or a system D, like se débrouiller. It's like to get by, a way for the world to actually get by and get through this crisis. Like we see stories about this all the time in like war zones and things like that today, that they're like, if it wasn't for Bitcoin, I couldn't have sent money to my family to get them out, etc. So it's a lifeline. It's a lifeline, and of course it's the future, right? And it's already here. Like the Renaissance has already started, and oh man, I'm so excited. It's amazing to live in this exact era.
Well, great to chat with you, Tuur.